Okay, let's talk about the difference between an objection and a stall. What's an objection? What's a stall? Okay, for young salespeople, they get hit with stalls all the time, and they assume it's an objection, and rather than handling the objection, they just drop price. Not a good thing. Holding your price is what makes you money. You got to hang on to your price. So let's just run through a couple of these. Okay, Grant Cardone has a fantastic book called Overcoming Objections that gives you literally 1,000 different objections that they can come up with, and then ways of handling those objections. Okay, he also talks very clearly about what's a stall and how to handle a stall. All right, so let's talk real quick about a stall. All right, a stall is when a customer says something to the effect of, "Well, we got to think about it." Okay, we got to think about it is probably the most common one that you're going to see. All right, and there's a specific way that you need to handle when they say, "Hey, we got to think about it." And if you got to watch this video 100 times over to get this down, it will make you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Okay, so the way that you handle that specific objection of, "I got to think about it," is say, "Well, I understand, man. This is a big decision. You should think about it. So, Mr. Smith, how much time do you think you need? You think you need 2 months, 2 weeks, 2 days, 20 minutes? I mean, what are we talking here?" And he goes, "Oh, well, I just need a couple of days, I said, "Okay, fantastic. Well, Mr. Smith, I hear this a lot. And when people tell me this, it always comes down to the same couple of things. Can I share those with you?" "Well, yeah. Now, keep in mind, if you've done a good pre-close, this is how you kill this off, okay? So you look at him and you say, "All right, so Mr. Smith, the number one thing that people, might have a question about would be the product." Okay, so I'm going to ask you this question. Earlier I asked you if you're comfortable with the product, you thought it'd solve your problem. You told me yes. You said, "Absolutely, I think it'll solve the problem." Has that changed? "Well, no, I think it'll solve the problem." Okay, so you're comfortable with the problem, with the product itself, correct? "Oh, absolutely." Okay. The second thing we talked about was the company. We talked about our 20-year history. We talked about the awards that we won. We talked about the money-back guarantee. All those things. And you told me you were comfortable with the company. Has that changed? No, that hasn't changed. So, okay, so you're good with the product. You're good with the company. Again, I haven't irritated you, right? You told me we were cool? Yeah, we're cool. Okay, great. So then let's be realistic, okay? Right now, what we're dealing with is money. And he's going to look at you at that point and say, "Yeah, it's just more money than we plan on spending." Okay, great. Well, Mr. Smith, I hear this a lot too. So let me ask this question. How much did you anticipate this would be? And he's going to look at you and he's going to say, "Well, say you're at $10,000 and he's going to be at, we thought it'd be $6,000. Okay. And what we're going to ask next is called a calibrated question. Okay, you got to get them thinking like you're thinking. Okay, you got to, and I'm going to share a couple of different ones, but this particular one that you're going to ask is, "Mr. Smith, that number of $6,000, can you tell me what you base that on?" What the goal here is to help him understand that he's basing this just on a feeling and not on any facts or anything. It's just what he thought it would cost. Okay, and he's going to look, "Well, it's what I thought it should cost." Okay, that's very understandable. But sometimes things, when you get a high quality product, they cost a little bit more. Now, obviously, Leaf Filter could make this product, for you to be $6,000, but here's what they'd have to do. Okay, they'd have to change out that stainless steel screen and use some sort of cheap screen, right? Because that stainless steel is not cheap, right? Maybe they go to a cheaper plastic instead of that polyvinyl chloride that we talked about that's been tested up to 170 degrees and isn't going to tear up, okay? Maybe they take back that no-clog guarantee because they're using a lesser quality product, and now you're back up there and you're cleaning these things out. I mean, there's several products out there that could do the job for that would take your $6,000 and not do the job effectively. So the question is, do you want to do this right or do you want to do this cheap? "Well, I want to do both." Well, You can't get right and cheap at the same time. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work that way. But based on the type of materials that we're using and the warranty that we're given and the quality of the product, can you understand why the price is more expensive than you might have thought? Well, yeah, that's what I got in the budget. Okay, so you and your wife talked about this before we came here, and you budgeted $6,000 for this, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me ask a question. You ever gone out and bought a car, and you think the car should be less than it is? And so right now we're 40%. We're behind by 40%. Can you imagine walking into the Ford dealership and looking at a $45,000 truck and offering $25,000 for it? I mean, kind of look at you like you're crazy, wouldn't they? Probably wouldn't get that deal, right? No? That's kind of where we're at here. You know, I can't do it for that price. Okay, I just can't. Now, there's something that I might be able to do for you to save you a little bit more money, but let me share what that is. And at that point, I'm going to go into open box. I'm going to look for things. But the idea here is when you're dealing with a stall, okay, you've got to get to the objection. All right? Sometimes that objection is they don't have the money right now. Okay? So very often we're going to run into customers who have to take a certain percentage of money out at the end of the year for tax. You know, it's one of those things, of mandatory disbursement out of their retirement. That's going to happen more often than you think. And those generally come in December or January, right? Some people like to take them at the beginning of the year, some people like to take them at the end of the year. But anyhow, right in that time frame. So they're going to tell you, hey, I can't do this, I just can't do this right now. Okay? Well, when they ask why they can't do it right now, that's where you got to dig in. And now there's a great line, oh, really? Why's that? You can ask, oh, really? Why's that? 5 times, and you'll get to the root of the problem every single time. But here's the thing, you've got to ask enough questions until it finally comes out. All right? So, Mr. Smith, what's preventing us from moving forward today? Well, I just can't. Oh, really? Why's that? Well, I just don't have the money. A minute ago, you told me you were a cash customer, but right now you don't have the money. Help me out here. I'm not understanding that. Well, I just don't have the money right now. Okay, so is this an issue of having to save the money up? Is this an issue of, because here's the thing, guys, if he's just said, yeah, I don't have that, it's going to take me another 3 months to do that, to save that money, that's when I look at him and say, okay, great. You ever heard of layaway plans? Well, yeah. Well, we have kind of a layaway plan. All right? We can give you 6 months, 0% with no payments. So in 3 months you're going to have the money, right? Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and put you in a plan that gives you 6 months to raise the rest of the money, right? And you don't have to pay any interest on it. It's just like a layaway plan, except here's the only difference. You get your gutter protection put in this week. So, that's one way of handling that objection. But until you know why he's not just saying, no, I don't have the money. No, I don't have the money is there's no reason not to move forward on that with financing. Okay? If he's looking at you and he's going, well, I'd really like to do this, but you got to get at the but. Okay? And that's going to take those questions, those calibrated questions. Sometimes a calibrated question is to dig a little bit deeper, and sometimes a calibrated question challenges them on their assumption. Okay? And one of the things when he says, well, no, I got to do it for $6,000, that's when you look at him and you go, Mr. Smith, how do you expect me to do that? Now then, he's looking at you and he's like, you just can't knock off $4,000, especially if you've already told him you've done everything you can do. So here's a very important point. Now learn this in police work. When you ask a question of a suspect, okay, once that question is out there, you shut up and you wait them out. You don't interrupt them. So when you ask a calibrated question like that, Mr. Smith, how do you expect me to do that? Shut up and let that discomfort set. People cannot stand discomfort that lasts more than about 10 seconds, right? They have to address it. They have to say something. And so that calibrated question is gold as long as you shut up. I'll give you a funny story. I was selling bathrooms, and I was new to the bathroom sales. One call closed, and I called my boss, and I asked him a question or whatever, and he ended up giving them a discount, and he was letting them sit on it and think about it. And I immediately got in, and I jumped in, and I said, this is a really good deal, I really think. And I'm trying to sell what he just said rather than shutting up. And he literally, after I went on for like 20 seconds, he literally whispers into the phone, and he was on speakerphone, and he says, "Shut up." True story, Chris Knapp. So anyhow, that's kind of how that went. And I learned a very important lesson that day, because after that, we ended up, he had to make another drop and everything else. And when it was all said and done, it cost me about $750. And I complained to him, "Man, I lost that money." And he said, "No, what you did is you learned something today. You won't make that mistake again, and that will save you thousands. That will make you thousands." And it has. So with that, that's just one of the things of understanding the difference between a stall and objection, taking them from the stall, identifying the objection, and then addressing the objection. That's the key. And almost all the time that you're addressing the objection, it's going to come down to addressing money. All right? Key point, don't drop your pants. Figure a way to finance, and do your very best to make as much money as you possibly can.